Welcome to Just Ranked, where we rate songs so you don't have to. We're like Yelp for music. Only you didn't ask for our opinion.
We're going to tell you.
Well, we're going to tell you.
You're going to get it anyways.
Just like Priest, we're going to ram it
We're
down.
going to take it.
Oh, damn.
Judas
Nice.
Priest, you mean? Judas Priest?
No, hey, this is your favorite.
Not like that, not Catholic Priest.
Judas Priest. Jesus.
This is your new favorite show where we rate our top 4 songs of that week's topic. This week's topic is favorite songs of 1994. Not 84, 2004, but 1994. And don't ask me how we came up with this year. I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
We threw a dart.
Yeah, we threw a dart.
Pretty much.
It hit the calendar. It said 1994. Of course, it was a 1994
Jimmy said
calendar.
yell out a date, and I said 94. That's exactly what it was.
If you want to
That's
find
how
us on your social medias, we are justrankedpod.com. You can find a list of all our social medias and socials there, and our links and YouTubes and podcasts, everything there. If you're watching this, please do us a favor and click like, subscribe, and click the bell so you get notifications when you get your new show every Wednesday. My name is Joe, and I'm with Jimmy and with Dink and with Chris. Let's get the show started, huh? 1994.
My name.
Dink, you start us off this week.
I am first. All righty, ready. Okay, so I have a quick disclaimer for the listeners. I told the boys, like we talked about last week, we don't discuss much, but I did tell the boys I'm going to do this. I'm not including Alice in Chains on my list for 94 because it would dominate my list. So we dedicated a whole show to them. Of course, Lane got some mention with supergroups. So I'm moving on from Alice in Chains, but let it be known that Nutshell would be number 1 on this list.
Great.
So we're going to talk about some other music. So I'm going to start with my number 4, and my number 4 is Portishead, Glory Box.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
totally.
what
And that is not from actually 94 time frame for me with listening. This is from all the years later where I really fell in love with that style of music, which I guess you could consider trip hop, I think they call it. Electronic psychedelic, but trip hop is like tricky, Massive Attack, Garbage, even like that whole style of music, right? So
Love Garbage.
I really like Portishead. I like Beth Gibbons' voice, and Glory Box and Sour Times get a lot of play in TV shows now or movies. I know Glory Box was in Yellow Jackets, American Horror Story. It's been in a bunch of shows. You need to interject?
Yeah.
Do it.
What's Glory Box?
What's a Glory Box? Well, I know what a Glory Bowl is.
We didn't know this is this
Right.
kind of podcast, but okay, go ahead.
No, I didn't look it up
that's-
what a Glory Box is. Do you know what a Glory Box is?
No.
No, neither do I.
What's with the suspense? I don't either. I was hoping you could tell me.
No, it's not part of my notes anyway. I guess I should have looked up the definition. I looked up more about the song and about the band.
Oh, I thought it was a
Obviously-
band.
No, Glory Box is the song.
Oh,
Portishead is
okay.
the band. Portishead is the
Portishead
band.
is the band.
Yeah.
I apologize for interrupting.
No, and you'll know the song when you hear the song, you'll recognize it. The sample is Isaac Hayes, who was chef from South Park, right?
Yeah.
What it's known for now.
Hey, I've got an answer on the Glory Box question. If you want to know, I googled it.
Real time.
Is the clothes, sheets, and etc. that young women traditionally collect or use after she is married, and that is from the Cambridge Dictionary.
So it's like a cedar chest, kind of, or a
Like a box of, I guess, heirlooms of stuff that she would accumulate from memories.
Okay, yeah.
and-
So I guess I probably should have looked that up, but I did not.
That's all right.
No, it's cool. It's cool. It's a good
Sorry, I
question.
thought it was some
We
weird
have the
Canadian
technology
thing.
to do it right on.
Yeah,
the
we
spot.
do have the technology when we're always like, I wish I knew
No time
that.
fact checking.
I'm now the fact checker.
But yeah, obviously it's a 3-piece band, right? Like it's Beth and the 2 other guys, and they've been on many hiatuses. In fact, she just released because I really love her voice. She just released a solo album last year, but I don't think that band is done. They've never ever called it quits. They go away from each other for a while, and then they get back together, and they do shows. They travel. They do festivals and stuff. And they released 2 albums in the 90s, and then they released one in 08. There was supposed to be one in 2022, and that is yet to surface, I think. So anyway, that's really all I have for my notes.
Maybe it's a good thing, because a lot of bands seem to just release music, and sometimes it's not very good, and so they just release something when they're confident or they like it.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't want to say they're. I think they get labeled a little bit as pioneers of that style of music. So yeah, maybe. I think it's more Massive Attack, which again is a female lead. Garbage is a female lead, so there is a certain style there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a female lead, but it's more the actual sound of the music, right? And they've influenced other bands, like they've influenced PJ Harvey and Nine Inch Nails. They all kind of Sneaker Pimps, all that stuff has kind of started to sound similar, right?
Well, that's also that time frame, that early 90s, the female empowerment, and
right.
And lots of females getting noticed and signed, and having these just massive voices and incredible songwriting skills. So that's kind of a sign of that particular time, that 90s. So we've talked about that ad nauseum off of camera and stuff like that, but
right,
it's a really cool time frame for that.
It is. Yeah, so that's it for my number 4. My number 3 is well, I guess I should give one more disclaimer since we're talking about female leads. Actually, Nutshell wouldn't be number 1 on this list. Fade Into You would be number 1 on this list. And I tried to, I'm a stickler for accuracy. So when we did 71 and I didn't do Long Cool Woman, which would have been in my top 5, and I put it on the following year, and then Chris had it, and he said he only went by albums, I decided, okay, I'm only going to go by albums.
That's what I do.
Fade Into the Mazzy Star album was released in 93. Technically, the song Fade Into You was released in February of 94. But I went straight loyal to the album, or Fade Into You would be number 1 on this list, and Nutshell be number 2.
Yeah.
And
another
band with a female lead that's not trip hop, but just haunting and stuff. But anyway, if anyone says, well, I know Janky loves Fade Into You, that was 94. Sorry, didn't make the list. But if we ever do 93, which will be a long time from now when we throw that dart, we'll
next week.
Next week.
Well, the good news is it actually made the list now.
Right. Anyway, on to the real number 3, which is Selling the Drama from Live. And that's Chris. We probably killed it for each other, right? We listened to it a lot. Throwing Copper is very close to being an Island album for me. It's not, but it's definitely, if we did this show for 94 albums, this album would be on it. If we did a 90s albums, and maybe we will down the road, Throwing Copper would definitely be in consideration. I love the album front to back. There's lots of great tracks, and Selling Drama is my favorite track from it. Ed's a bit of a wiener, Ed Kowalchuk, the singer.
Heard that, yeah.
And an acquired taste, but I really like his voice on this song, especially, which he initially penned, which is funny, kind of topical with regard to political and religious leaders and the way they control the public. So,
little commentary there.
Isn't that funny?
Social commentary,
yeah. But anyway, it's funny. Like when I met Chris in September of 94, we hit it off musically, along with everything else that we were doing at the time. But we used to listen to this in his car on trips to Toronto, from Peterborough to Toronto, to go see buddies, along with Nirvana's Unplugged, and like so many different things from that time frame. So it's very memorable for me. But yeah,
it is for me too. But it's one of those ones that we've talked before, where it got killed for me. And sometimes stuff gets killed for me, and I come back to it. And that one is not one that I've come back to.
Can't come back. Yeah,
and I do appreciate that he's got a really good voice. Maybe part of it is he is a bit of a wiener or whatever. But for some reason it got killed for me, and it just, it's something that I generally don't listen to. But
I totally get that. And when I put it on,
talking about it, first thing I started thinking about was driving from Peterborough to Toronto and fucking listening to it in the car. Right.
Yeah. When I put it on in other groups, so if people like live, they're usually like, put on I Alone or put on something different, right? Than that one, because they probably are sick of it too. But for me, it's a mainstay from '94. So
it is interesting how your brain, like you're saying, Chris, like you get sick of it and not go back to it. And then sometimes you'll come back to it. And sometimes you just never get sick of it.
Yeah.
Right. It could go any of those ways, right?
I think there's one on my list that I just never get sick of. I know a lot of people have gotten sick of, but yeah.
All right, I'll move on to number 2.
Well, hang on.
Yeah,
But my note to that is about their drummer. And I normally know his name. I can't think of it right now. I'm sorry, I'm on the spot.
I can't think of it either.
Yeah. He had a really cool style to him. He brought this different kind of movement to his playing, and he did like a staccato thing. It was like with a lot of his beats, and it was really unique. Again, a lot of people after that, because musicians steal, they plagiarize. Yeah, a lot of drummers picked that up and kind of moved forward with that, claimed it as their own. But he had a really unique style. I mean, was he a mind blower? No. But he had a really, really creative process to the songs. So he played to the songs with his own beats and that staccato feel. I really enjoyed his playing.
Is it Chad Gracie? Is that who you're thinking of?
That sounds right. Yeah.
I looked it up.
Are you going to be the fact checker tonight? That's good.
Maury's 2 roles, the president and fact checker.
Yeah.
If I remember to do it, yeah. If not, if you want to remind me to do it, if I forget. Because the more I drink.
I was going to say,
it's early. It's early in this episode.
Normally those 2 roles don't go hand in hand. So
Mike's hard. Are you?
No. Absolutely not.
All right, I will move along to number 2. It is Home Roots. It is an easy one. It is Starseed from Our Lady Peace. I love this Canadian band. It's probably deserving of a public service announcement. I'm waiting on the ticker. There it is. Canadian public service announcement. No, actually, I just saw them a couple of weeks ago here in town. I don't know what you say. Like, Rain made it the singer. He's an acquired taste. His voice, some people can't stand it. If you like it, you probably really like it and really like their catalog, especially the early stuff. And this is their debut album. It's a heavier song. They've got some slower songs in the later albums, but the early stuff is heavy. And Jimmy, I know you know this band because we've talked about Our Lady Peace, but Jeremy Taggart, their drummer, who was on the first 8 albums, not the last 2, but because he's left the band, but I think he's like so underrated. Like, he's got a certain style.
He has a little groove.
Yeah, overly aggressive for their music. Like his drums are strange. Like, it's got a really hard. I'm not a drummer, so I don't know the actual
I know what you mean.
proper description of the way he pounds it. Like, it just stands out. So that always stood out to me when I listened to their music. Obviously, Rain's voice stands out right away. But then it was his drums. And the funny thing about him is that their original drummer, before they ever released an album, when they were an up-and-coming band in Canada and Toronto, touring clubs and stuff, he quit or they went a different direction, and they had an open tryout. And when Taggart made the band, he was 17, and the other guys were in their early 20s. So when they would play clubs, they had real issues because drinking age, obviously, in Ontario was 19. He wasn't 19. That was a problem.
Yeah, with that, I used to have to get a note from my mother to play.
I was going to ask you guys if you ever ran into that as band members.
Yeah, I didn't. Go ahead. No, I mean, Lake Lillian, Glencoe, a bunch of these little ballrooms and bars, fairly local to us. They knew everyone. They knew me. But I still had to have a note from my mom that she was aware that I was playing in a bar. And that was the time. That was the time.
Yeah.
Now that wouldn't probably fly, my guess.
My mom would give me a note to give the lady at the cash register so I get her smokes.
I was just going to say to buy smokes, right? My dad used to do the same thing. Go up the store, get me some smokes. They won't sell to me.
Here's a note. Throw a note.
Great segue for that.
12.
Joe, I know you're a big Prince fan, right?
What? No.
There's a Prince reference of Old Man Johnson's store, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Raspberry Beret.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That Old Man Johnson store was in my area where I grew up, 45th and 5th, South Minneapolis. I used to bring notes to get my mom Merit cigarettes at Old Man Johnson store.
Nice. Wow. So you wear a Raspberry Beret?
I never did. But I got my toque, and I'm not bald.
Yeah. Wait. Oh. No, but
there you go.
That worked perfect.
On the age thing, I used to know a guy who was a guitarist. He was 16, and the female singer had to become his guardian, his legal guardian.
That was common too.
Tour. Yeah,
that was common.
She was like 24 or something like that, and she was his legal guardian. Yeah,
hey, whatever works, right, to get the playing in. So
yeah, he's good.
I think lastly with that song, I think I mentioned it in the Alice in Chains episode where I had dove headfirst in, but a few things broke through, and I think I mentioned Our Lady Peace was one of the ones I did sway from, because you can only listen to one band so much before you got to listen to something else just to change it up, right? I know.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Yeah, I know. You'll always go back. If you're in love, you're in love, right? Like, it's like a bad relationship.
I have a question regarding that song. Was it off of Gravity or Healthy and a Paranoid Times?
It's off of Naveed, their debut.
Oh, okay. Right.
And if I would recommend the Naveed and Clumsy. Their first two are front to back.
The title song Naveed is my favorite.
Yeah,
Our Lady Peace song of all time.
And it's Naveed a lot of people's favorite too, right? That whole album is so good. Like, plays so great if you like the band, right?
Yeah, I saw them once. I didn't know any song names, and they were impressive. They did a great job.
Yeah. Like I said, I saw them a couple weeks ago with Collective Souls. So, anyway, we'll move on to number one. Number one was an easy one. I've mentioned this fucking lame list a bunch of times. So obviously, Fade Into You and Nutshell are on that list of the top 20 all-time favorites for Dink. This song is also on that list. And one day we'll post that list so people don't think Dink has an all-time 20 that's really 70 songs. But my number one is Fell on Black Days from Soundgarden.
That's a good song.
Okay.
It's number 18 on that 20 list. Great song. Wow. Chris's voice is great. It's kind of gloomy, and the lyrics are a little bit, you know what I mean? But it's just so good. It's another one I know it's catchy or good because my wife likes it. And so that always kind of jumps out when someone that doesn't like that style of music totally or fully. But yeah, it's I think, it's easily my favorite Soundgarden song, but Chris's voice is good. Kim's great on it. Cameron's wicked, right? Like, I don't know. Yeah,
amazing.
Really in the pocket. I wrote in my notes, he's really playing in the pocket, which I understand you'll get that, right?
Yeah, I get it.
That's, I don't know what much more to say about that song. I fucking love it. And I know there's tons of great songs in that year, let alone that album. Super Unknown's got a bunch of great songs, but that one for me was always the winner. And I, of course, love Spoon Man and My Way.
Spoon Man.
You ever seen that YouTube video of that recording with Spoon Man?
Yeah.
Wow, that guy is just
that dude's
going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I don't know if I
It's a great
have.
made me uncomfortable.
I just saw it a couple weeks ago for the first time. It popped up.
Not
in my
the actual music video, but like a.
No, an actual
No,
video.
he-
The recording
video of
session.
him in the studio recording a spoon session.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Spoon
he's
solo.
Yeah.
it looks like he's convulsing, he's flailing, and it's cool as shit, don't get me wrong, but
He looks
was
like he's
just
having an attack of some sort.
yeah, it made me have anxiety. Yeah.
He was the opening act on that tour.
Really?
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow.
Wasn't he a homeless guy? I mean, or I'm sorry,
He's a
unhoused,
He's a
whatever the
performer.
I think so, but don't quote me on that. So I don't know.
yeah.
Google it.
Google. Okay, so while you're Googling it, I will do my honorable mention.
right.
Okay, so I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, and I don't want to have a list of 40 songs, but I had a massive log jam at honorable mention.
Heard that.
We're not gonna talk about these songs, but I am gonna quickly name them. These are the ones I couldn't narrow down. So it was Bad Habit from Offspring, because I don't think you guys are gonna have any of these, so I think it's safe.
Nope.
Possum Kingdom from Toadies, Nothing Man from Pearl Jam, and the Mockingbirds from Grant Lee Buffalo, which is a fucking awesome song that wasn't huge. I just love it. It's just melodic and ballady. But anyway, and there's an STP song, which I won't name because that could be on somebody's list. So that was the log jam. And you know what I said? Fuck it. I X'd them all.
Wow.
And I went with the dance song. Because if I'm going to be true to myself, I did state I love Euro dance. Chris knows that to be true. So my honorable mention is Running Up That Hill from Elastic Band, which is a Euro dance track of the Kate Bush song.
Okay.
It's you guys might think it's cheesy as
I remember listening to that a lot around you.
Yeah,
Not just you. There a bunch of our friends.
Yeah, no, it was a bar club
yeah.
track, right? And if you like dance music, it was a banger. It was playing all the time. It's a Euro, but it's actually Italian Euro. It's two like they all are. It's two DJs and and vocals from some rando. So there was some rando is Tom. What's his name?
Morello.
I learned this because I knew the DJs, but I never. Half the time you don't even know who's singing in these dance songs.
Tom Arnold.
No, it's Tom Hooker. So Tom Hooker is like a jazzy cheese dick singer. He's got a huge catalog.
Like a lounge act singer, like a lounge act.
Kind of, or like
I got a
disco-y stuff after disco. Like it's borderline garbage. Because I did listen to his bunch of. He did actually co-write.
You okay there, Chris?
Oh, I missed it. I love a good choke laugh. Fuck.
I almost fucking spit water all over the place.
That was awesome.
But yeah, no, he co-wrote "Boom Boom Boom." Let's go back to my room from Paul Lukakis in '87. So that's kind of cool that Tom Hooker guy did. And no one's going back to Paul Lukakis's room anymore because he's got HIV. But at one time he wanted people to come back. Yeah, he's had HIV since '89 or '90s. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, I heard he was in Badlands.
The whole story where he had unprotected sex and openly admits it now and tell the loser.
Yeesh.
Anyway, the two DJs, you got to hear this because there's a Prince reference here. So,
What?
I had to write it down because I didn't know this.
Angelino
Albanese is an Italian DJ. Is one of the guys. So he did the DJing gig for that, and then went off and left that little small group and did a bunch of DJing stuff all over Europe and North America. And at one point in 2002, he did a private party for Madonna, and he was quoted as saying this was the night of his life because he had the pleasure of making a Prince get up and dance at the bar room in Miami.
Yeah,
Right on.
That's kind of cool.
Right on.
And the other guy is Gianni Fisnati. And Chris, you might know these references. Him and his brother, after they did this Elastic Band stuff, did a bunch of other dance stuff. So they were involved with Live and Joy and Alex Party.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and then, again, you have guest singers, right? So it's those two, and Janice Robinson is the Live and Joy singer, and those two, and Robin Campbell is the singer.
What
for
did Live
Alice
and
Cooper.
Joy? What was the name of their hit?
Dreamer. Here
Right.
I am alone, am I dreaming?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it, boys. That's my list. I know you don't like
Nice
dance
list.
music,
No.
Bradley, so
Nice list, man.
cheesy as shit.
It's a
but
good list.
Yeah,
I like
I'm
the
not
dance.
about any
That was
music.
it was tough with
Yeah.
94, man. There's so many songs. Every year, there's so many songs.
Yeah,
Right?
there is. And dude, I'll
You
never
ask
call
me in
any
6 months,
song-
it's going to be a different list. I'm telling you.
I think all of our lists are gonna be completely different. But I'll say this: I'll never say a song is cheesy. I'll never say it's bad. It's just, you like what you like, man.
You like what you like,
Yeah.
right? It's hard to have guilty pleasures. They're really just pleasures. But
I don't believe in guilty pleasures either. You like what you like.
I did I kind of went nostalgia stuff that I have memories to. What I still
Yep.
listen to today too. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
so I
Yeah.
guess that takes us to you, Jimmy.
All right. Well, I'm going to take us back visually because 1994 was the year of the 40. So I figured I'd get a 40.
This is gonna be great for the audio version.
By the way,
Jimmy's drinking out of a paper bag right now.
idea. You have no idea how hard it was to find a fucking 40 in 2025.
Yeah, you had easier time finding a paper bag.
You're gonna go to Southside Chicago to find that.
Oh,
I don't even
I
think
said
we
it.
had 40s in Canada, did we? I never had a 40 in my life.
really?
No,
Yeah.
I told them I would buy this only if it came with a paper bag. So it is housed in a paper bag.
What is in it?
Awesome.
Is it gross?
Well,
Does it taste good?
unfortunately, it's Miller Lite. I couldn't. That was the
Ugh.
only thing they had. So
Wow. I'm surprised it's
but-
brand name.
the video reference is awesome. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So as you guys talked about, and also I think every episode we do, I try to go nostalgic. I go deep to where my heart roots are, and a lot of the times that is metal. In this episode, it's all metal. Sorry, guys.
no, that's fine.
Well, it's not all metal. It's not. I lied. Number 4 is I have a hard time saying that I enjoyed the first 2 albums immensely. After that, they became kind of, I don't know, cartoonish to me, and I fell away from them. But number 4 is Dave Matthews Band, Satellite.
Wow.
Wow.
Carter Beauford is possibly one of the greatest drummers that has ever lived. And I will throw that out there very easily, and I will defend it to my death. He took this jam band to become a progressive rock, to become a jazz band, turned the hillbilly kind of sound that they had going, forgive me, and actually made it a legitimate sound with Carter Beauford. He's still there, but I really haven't listened past the first 2 albums. But yeah, I really, really fucking dig that first album a lot. There's some kind of sad notes to that. Dave Matthews dedicated to his sister, who unfortunately died in a murder-suicide. I didn't know that until doing research on this.
Yeah.
There's been some history with some of the musicians that I'm not going to go into because that's not what we're here for. But Carter Beauford does this really cool halftime, odd time feel in almost all of the songs. He does play straight 4/4, but he does do a lot of halftime odd signatures, and it's just amazing. There's some really cool things. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee in 2024. Thought it might have been a little premature myself, but he's there. They are there. As of 2018, 25 million concert tickets sold. So
fucking insane. They have a Grateful Dead Fish type.
Yeah, I played softball with a guy who saw him like 70 times, and that's what he
Right,
does.
if you've seen him 30 or 40 times.
It's like, Jesus, dude.
Yeah,
My wife's seen him
down.
3 or 4 or 5 times. Like, she used to love him. Like,
Well, I think what killed it for me is at that time frame, there was a big issue with the Grateful Dead going away. There was a big issue with Fish and ticket sales. So Dave Matthews Band filled that void. So those Grateful Dead Fish fans kind of took over for their audiences.
And just hung
That
on to
wasn't
them.
for me.
It's not
I
for
mean,
me
good
either.
for them. They had somewhere to follow and somewhere to go, and that's what music is about: is to follow and enjoy. And that mood wasn't for me. So, no disrespect, it just wasn't for me. But yeah, that's my real quick reference to number 4. If you guys have any notes,
No, surprising.
No, not really. Like I said, my wife was a fan. She turned me on to, because I kind of missed him when we got, and her and I were friends before we started dating, but when we moved in together and combined our CDs, and she's like was into him, and I was like, what's this shit?
gotta love combining music. Gotta love that.
Yeah. But so there's some songs in that the early catalog that I like too, right? And then the more he put out, and it was more radio hits because she kind of fell off him too. So we weren't buying the CDs or downloading the stuff even.
Yeah.
So I didn't keep up.
Well, that's also a time frame thing. I mean, within 4 or 5 years of this album's release, Under the Table Dreaming, by the way.
Under the Table. I was going to say it's Under the Table, right?
Yeah. Within 4 or 5 years of this album's release, the home computer took off. There were starting to have, Napster, all sorts of things like that were happening. So, I mean, it was a new way to listen to music. It was a different way. And my eyes got really big there. Weird. Sorry. But it's a really cool, crazy time period, 1994, because for me, I had left everything in Minnesota and I moved to Arizona. So I was in a stranger in a strange land, if you will, and the music scene changed and all these new things kind of got thrown at me. And this is one of the things that I kind of grabbed onto because it was different from my norm.
Right. Yeah, it kind of threw me even when you said it. I wasn't expecting that. So. I'm going to do all metal. Here's Dave Matthews.
Yeah.
So a tease, if you will.
Tease.
Whenever I've liked this stuff, I've always liked his live stuff. Like I like the unplugged that he did, and I like
with Tim Reynolds.
No, Dave Matthews in general. Like,
yeah, they're a great
band.
band.
The Dave Matthews Band.
No, but he does one with Tim, like an acoustic show. It's just him and Tim Reynolds, what a guitarist. It's really good too.
Oh yeah. But no, the MTV one unplugged you did, wasn't that with
the MTV Unplugged one is pretty awesome. Yeah. It's a little more.
I was a big fan of a lot of those. Really, like let's be honest, I stole those as much as I could on Napster.
Yeah,
the Unplugs. Even the artists you didn't even like all that much, the Unplugs were pretty good.
Well, that's where I fell in love with the Corrs, though, too. Like I would discover a lot of new bands.
That's exactly what I was thinking was the Corrs.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm going to move on to number 3. This one's probably not going to shock you, but this album was kind of a break from their normal sound, and they actually went from more of a progressive metal thrash sound to a more subdued stream of conscious, if you will, and that is Megadeth Euthanasia. There's two songs. It's kind of a double on this. The big one, Train of Consequences, just fucking amazing because it's just that Marty Friedman is just amazing on this album. The other one is the last song on the album. It's Victory. The whole concept of the song is all of his previous or their previous song titles into a song format. So everything, Wake Up Dead, everything, he just keeps going and he puts it all into song verse, and it's really, really cool. I love this album so much. They had a breakout song, Le Tout Le Monde. It's in all in French, which he speaks fluent French, which I found out later. It's I don't know. It's a really cool album. It started out, it charted number 4 on the U.S. Billboard Top 200. So it was a strong album.
It was
it
highly
went platinum.
anticipated. Not to, sorry,
Absolutely, because there was a big break between that and Rest in Peace. Yeah. So it charted number 4. It went platinum, which means in America 1 million sales. In Canada 100,000. It went platinum. Marty Friedman, known for his band previous to that, Cacophony, with Jason Becker. If you guys are familiar with Jason Becker, he did A Little Ain't Enough with David Lee Roth, and then he got ALS. He still writes songs. He's a proponent in what's that?
He's still alive.
Absolutely. He writes music with a machine in front of his eyes, and he moves the cursor and still writes music, and it's all incredible.
His dad was a programmer, and his dad actually invented that way back in the day when he lost all physical ability.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. A little note about Marty Friedman. Guitar players will understand this a little more. The trained guitar player does a down pick, up pick, down pick every single stroke. He doesn't. He only does up strokes. So it's off-putting. I mean, like to watch him, he looks like and the way he holds his pick is like this, and it's up stroking. Like James Hetfield, the only thing he does is down stroking. So it's a very, very unique style of guitar. He's a shredder, but he hates being called a shredder. He thinks people who don't know how to play are shredders, and he's a musician. So that's pretty much that on Megadeth. I mean, I have so many notes, but I'm not going to go into it. So what do you guys have about Megadeth?
For me personally, I like them. I don't love them, and that is Dave's voice.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Okay.
I think it's an acquired taste. I think the music's always really good. Like for Countdown to Extinction, I think the music in that album is phenomenal. And his vocals are okay or tolerable in like the first 2 tracks, Skin of My Teeth and Symphony. And his vocals just I like Angry Again from the Last Action Hero. I like 99 Ways to Die from the Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
His voice just irks me at times. That's all.
Right.
Never got into them. I never got into Megadeth.
Well, they remind me of Ian, our buddy Ian. He was so ready for euthanasia to come out.
Yeah. It's just never been my thing.
A correction before Dink gives me a note. I said Rest in Peace. I meant Countdown to Extinction.
No, I know. I knew you did. That's why I didn't bother.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't
know. Give it notes later. I tell you later.
Yeah.
I didn't like him before Friedman. Friedman's why I went to them, and I liked those albums. Again, I like the music. Never been a fan of his voice ever. It grates on me.
A little bit chocolate.
I personally love it.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a very unique voice. Again, one of those voices you're either going to love it or you're not.
Yeah. Well, Joe,
have you seen the clip where Alice in Chains are making fun of them?
Yes.
Hello, me. It's me.
Joe, it's me again.
It's me again.
Joe, you've talked in the past about how you tend to go to singers that aren't of a natural, beautiful voice, and this is the example for me that I right away off of like the first 2 albums. Peace Sells. I loved his voice. It was like, oh, this is unique.
Yeah.
So
my problem is too sonically. There's a lot of those albums I used to listen to Rust in Peace and stuff like that for the music. But now when I listen to those albums sound so dated. To me it's like, I can't.
Absolutely.
I can't.
They don't stand the test of
some
time.
albums carry through the years, right? Like old Van Halen still carries through the years, and even Led Zeppelin. But you look at early Zeppelin and when they with their last album or album and a half ago or whatever, was Zeppelin gonna make it through the 80s with the sound changing so much? I don't know, but some bands can carry through those decades. Those older bands like Testament, which I used to love, Megadeth, Anthrax is really the only band from that era I can see.
Sadly, it's some of that old metal doesn't really hold up.
Yeah,
it doesn't translate.
You already love it. You can listen to it, but you couldn't turn someone else onto it. Maybe
no. And for you, it's probably more nostalgic. I mean, he's probably still like the music, obviously.
Right?
But like again, there's another voice, Joey Belladonna. Either you love him or you hate him. You know, so I was a big Belladonna fan, but didn't like Mustaine's voice. So yeah.
Yeah. So I totally respect that you do, because if you like something, regardless, it's like Rain made it for Our Lady Peace. If you like something, regardless of what other people think, fuck off. I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, my wife, I've mentioned my wife so many times. I'm sorry. We talk about music, right? We talk about music all the time. We're constantly playing music in the house. We collect albums together. And one of the conversations that we have so often is we try to figure out, there's like, what makes someone like song X, but not like song Y? When they're basically the same song, but there's something about X that's so much better than Y, and Y is like dribble. So, I mean, that's a cool conversation we have.
That is a cool conversation.
So it just fell along the lines you guys were
talking about. I think about that quite often because, I don't like calling myself a songwriter, but I do write songs. And when I write, I only write things I like, but odds are everyone else is going, what the fuck is this shit? You know? But if it's an artist or a song you completely love, like listen to this vocal melody. It's got that really cool hook, and they're like, yeah, not really. It's not doing it for me. It's like, how could you not hear it? You know. So it is very interesting what people hear. It's kind of like colors. Do people see the same colors? Do they hear things differently? So it's a very cool topic to think about.
Well, I'll use, just before you move on, I'll use a band that we all kind of like, Tesla, for example. When Shock came out, or even older Tesla, people that aren't that familiar with Tesla, I've played it for them. Listen to Jeff's voice; it's so good, and they're like, "Yeah."
I'll tell you a secret about that, and I can't unhear it. I heard someone had told me that Jeff Keith's voice sounds like Cartman from.
I wish you hadn't said that.
And now I can't unhear it. I still think he's got a great voice, but I can't unhear it.
Oh no! Right.
Especially the older he's gotten, obviously his voice isn't quite as smooth as it was, but it's still got that Jeff sound to it. But I can't unhear Cartman now.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah, I bought Shock on vinyl. I had never heard it before, and I played it. I was excited, and honestly, that album I was disappointed because it was just kind of Def Leppard light because of the Mutt Lange.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's
right. Yeah. Phil's involvement.
And I was kind of disappointed that in my whole life, I mean, from 16 on to now, I've just adored Tesla, and that album was a bit off-putting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because I have all their albums, even their newer stuff, and I love their new stuff. But I get why. But also, they said we realize people may not like this because we sound a little bit different. They're like, we wanted to make an album with our friend, and so we did. So I'm like, good for them. They did what they wanted to do. I like it. I like it too. Shock is a great opening track. They use Shock to open up their shows, man. It's a great opening track.
Yeah, I believe that.
I mean, and also musically, it's called Evolution. You can there's one band that I can think of that has spent 40 years doing the same album, and that's AC/DC. There's no other band that can do it. No, I'm not ripping on AC/DC because I love them. They're awesome. They have their niche. They found it, and this is what it's going to be. And
Malcolm was an amazing riff writer, man. That guy could write amazing 3-chord riffs and have them all sound different, but yet sound the same.
Exactly.
And that's not easy to do, man. That's not easy to do.
Totally. Yeah. Sorry, I took you off the rails here. Like,
I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? I had to check to see what topic we were doing because we fucking veered off on something there. I'm like, what are we doing again? What topic?
I just want to tell that listener.
That's why I shut the fuck up for a few minutes. I'm like, what the hell?
We talk about making these shows shorter and they end up getting longer. So
music talk.
Exactly I was thinking the whole time that was going on. I'm like, this isn't getting shorter.
And we'll find our niche. The people that'll love this show are the people that love to talk music too and want to hear other people's opinions, right? So
It'd be
Keep
different if it was just horseshit information, just four douches talking. I remember drinking a Pabst Light at a tailgate party to this album.
Yeah.
There was talk last time
Look
about
what
a
the
lot of
cat dragged in. And it was
we
fucking
talked about
awesome.
we talked about barns in Minnesota a lot in one of the shows and cattle
hey,
and whatnot.
We got to talk
Right.
about cattle and the cow.
Anyway.
All right, moving ahead. Number two.
Moving ahead.
I only went halfway through my list.
Dude.
All right,
Oh fuck.
number
All right,
two.
go on with your next Tesla song. Oh wait, 94. It's 94.
Number two. This is one of the greatest albums that has ever been created.
Great album.
From
It was
start
coming.
to finish. It's probably going to be another topic for us. But this album blew my mind, and I can't set it on there, so fuck it.
For our audio listeners, Jimmy, that would be what album?
This is going to be Dream Theater Awake.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And we're gonna only do visuals.
Yes, at the height of grunge, 1994, this album comes out. It peaks at number 32, which is respectable at the Billboard Top 200. That's when I do peak. That's always the Billboard Top 200. There's a bunch of back notes. They lost their keyboard player during this time, and Kevin Moore, Jordan Rudess came in to fill in the void. There was a bunch of infighting. One cool thing, a little Canadian note, James Labrie is from Canada.
Wow.
Bet you guys didn't know that.
I don't even know who that is, but all right.
That's the singer. That is the singer of Dream Theater. So he's from Canada. The album cover is really cool. It encompasses all of the song names and concepts. So visually, it's very, very stunning. Dream Theater, we mentioned them. I mentioned them once before. Joe did too one other time. This is one of those bands that really kind of changed how I listen to music. And being a musician, I listen to music differently. It's broken my listening capabilities because I hear a song and I immediately want to break it down. I can tune out all of the musicians and just listen to the drums, and that's kind of broken my listening habits. But this band broke me like all the way through because I couldn't follow it. They would go from 3/4 to 7/8 to 3/4 to 4/4, all within a measure or within three measures. Sorry, I had to say that right. And I loved it, and it blew my mind. And I'll always be a Dream Theater fan. And sorry, the song from this album is "Mirror," which directly within a half a second goes into "Lie." Just amazing. If you can handle a lot of time changes and syncopation, this is the music that you need to check out. That's it.
Now that was their next album right after their big breakout album, Images and Words. So it was.
This is their third album.
Yeah, it was a big album. There was like a big deal. Like you said, they had switched keyboardists. There was a lot of infighting. There was like some rumors at the time that they were breaking up and stuff like that because they
did technically.
Yeah, but this album was highly sought after before it was released. So
yeah, I used to we talk about driving songs all the time, and this album is a driving song for me. I could throw the CD in and just drive 90 miles an hour or 40 or 15 or whatever and just drive
all the way to Winnipeg,
right from Illinois to Winnipeg to Manitoba. Exactly.
It's a team.
There may be a show coming direct from Winnipeg coming up here, and it's only a 12-hour drive for me. So all right, if you guys don't have anything on Dream Theater, I'm going to move to my number one.
Move.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. It's a self-titled album. There was a vocalist change, and it is the drummer's best drumming to date for this album. And it is actually Motley Crue.
Oh, yeah.
The song is Hooligan's Holiday.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah,
It was on
this song.
it was on way down on my list, but it was considered once in a fleeting thought.
Yeah.
But
I myself and many other fans I know do consider this their best album, and they've done everything to bury this album.
yeah.
Vince Neil was, fabled. He was out, got kicked out, and John Corabi came in from Black Eyed Susan and the Scream, and just fucking killed it.
His voice is so good.
Yeah, it was the first time they ever had two guitar players playing at the same time live. They actually recorded a second album and they shelved it because it just, Nikki Sixx is an asshole. US Billboard 200 peaked at number 7. In 1994, Motley Crue peaked at number 7. Just fucking incredible. John Corabi's voice is amazing. This is the first single with him. They had 4 singles on this album. I actually saw this tour at the Mirage in Minneapolis, a pretty cool nightclub. Shotgun Messiah opened up for them, and I was in heaven because I was a huge Shotgun Messiah fan. I went with my then girlfriend Tiffany, who ended up moving to Phoenix talked about earlier in the episode. This is just fucking amazing. This album, you have to really listen to it. The big note of reference on this album is Bob Rock. Everyone knows who Bob Rock is. 1994 was really when he had his fingers in every album, every genre, changed all sorts of different band sounds, and really, really moved heavy metal or hard rock forward from the previous sound. Probably the most well-known is the Metallica Black Album. I have a list over here of all the different, people he's worked with, but we don't have the time for that today. So
He's Canadian too, right?
Canadian. He's Canadian.
Chris, Bob Rock is Rock and Hide. Bob Rock's Payolas,
I
right?
know who he is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have 2 honorable mentions. The first one is the best one.
Stranger.
I love the Payolas.
Yeah, me too.
One doesn't count because it's a best of. I'm a huge Sade fan. The Best of Sade came out in '94, and just a beautiful album. But my real honorable mention is I normally would have never ever said this band, but I saw them in 2013 with a friend. Kidnapped me per se. We went to this thing called Picnic, and it had a bunch of bands there. And Bush was there and blew me away live. I was so just like caught up in excuse me, the moment, and Bush was so impressive. So Bush 16 Stone is my honorable mention.
Yeah, I had Everything Zen on my long list, but Bush didn't make it. But yeah, I've heard they're really good in concert. It's back to Crew though. There's footage of John Corabi doing shows himself, and he does some acoustic Hooligans Holiday. So good.
Mm-hmm.
Did you not go to Eden Fest?
No, I didn't. But some people came back to my
Bush was at Eden Fest. I mean, I was on acid.
I regret not going to that show, but I was going to go with Jerry and Jordy, and they snuck in and climbed under the fence, and they came back to my apartment afterwards in Peterborough. But there were refreshments, 7 Mary 3, like so many.
And it's
refreshments.
Dennis had sheets.
I love the
refreshments. You know who else was there that blew me away? That was really good on concert was Love and Rockets. They were really good live. Really good. 7 Mary 3 was there too. They were really good.
But yeah, it's funny you said Sade. Like it totally in amongst my list. That wasn't I love her.
Yeah, me too.
I do like her a lot too. Yeah.
I've always wanted her and Sting to do a duet together. I thought they have very.
That would be beautiful.
That would be actually pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe have tantrum sex.
I gotta be honest. I don't
7
know
hours.
anything by Dream Theater. I don't know anything by Dream Theater. That's why I didn't have any comments. I don't
have a lot to say either because I don't know their. I've been trying to catch up and listen to them since you brought them up in the opening track, and I had a buddy in Kitchener that loved them. And in fact, I sent him the link to that show. Hey man, because he once burned me a CD with all their albums at that time, which was up maybe in 08, so whatever, how many ever albums they had up to then. You got to check these guys out. And I didn't give it enough time.
6 or 7, yeah.
Wow.
But I'm with you, Chris. I don't have a lot to say because I just don't know their material.
I don't know
well
anything. I'm gonna have to look them up. I'm embarrassed. I don't know.
Well, I mean, anyone listening, if you like progressive rock, if you like metal, and you like I guess music you can't dance to, check it out.
I still think probably
I can't dance.
I will
I
still
like music you dance because I can't dance.
I still think Images and Words is probably their most approachable album, you know.
Absolutely. It's
If
more
you're not
Queen's
into
right
like
now.
really, really progressive syncopated stuff, there's a lot of melodic stuff going on in Images and Words. And it's also one of the reasons why diehard Dream Theater fans don't really like that album. Because they consider it like the radio album, even though every song is like 9 minutes long.
Right.
It's funny. There's always those bands, right, where the diehards are like, "No, that one's
Crazy. You ruin it for everybody else.
I loved him until 72, and
right."
he wore
They were
red
good
shoes.
till Justice, and then after nothing good after Justice.
I was one of those idiots with
I was gonna say you're probably one of those guys. I like the Black Album, but
Black Album's a really good album.
We don't get too sidetracked.
I like it now. At the time, I was like, "What?"
Right.
Sorry, I'm drinking from my 40.
I fold it.
I think Chris, you're next.
Chris, you're up, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, my
Thanks,
fault. I was drinking.
Too busy drinking from your 40 to fucking segue.
Too busy thinking about we're doing Megadeth? What are we doing right now?
Tesla? We doing Tesla?
Tesla.
Hey, Chris. Hey,
Yeah.
Chris. Just so you know, the show is 1994.
Thank you. All right. Well, you're not going to know who this is anyways. I'll be shocked if you know who this is. So my number 4 is a Canadian band.
Oh yeah.
It's Silver by Moist.
Nice.
Now, for me, I guess it's a 94 song. Actually, it's Push by Moist from the album Silver. Sorry, Push. The album came out in 94, but I remember going to, and Dick will know, the Fairview Mall in Kitchener when I was going to college there.
Yep.
And I went to the HMB store, and they had an independent section with a bunch of cassettes, and they had this band up there called Moist in the independent section, and this was late 93, and they had spent some money and put out an independent album to try and get signed to a label. And this was before Silver came out. And I remember going there, and they had a listening station. You could listen to it. And I'm like, this is fucking cool. I'm going to pick this up. And I bought it. And then like in a year later, they exploded. They were touring. I saw them in concert at my college. They're all over the place. They're really big when Dink and I were going to school.
Yep.
David Usher went solo and had a lot of success in Canada. But just for the memory of going and like I remember going and buying the tape. I remember going and listening to it. I know the two guys from the US aren't going to know who I'm talking about, but I got goosebumps when I was standing in that HMV listening to the song Push. And it just like when we started doing 94, I started looking at what was released, and I saw that album was released there, and I had to put it on the list. The more I listened to it, and the more it brought back the memories, I had to put it on the list.
And they had 3 or 4 songs they released off that album too, right?
Silver was the title song off that album.
I was going to say Silver was another track. Was Resurrection on that, or was it on the second album?
No, Resurrection was on that, I think. But anyways.
The resurrection. Yeah. That's how it goes.
You got Joe going. Well, I wrote it down, and I'm going to be doing a dive on that.
Yeah,
he went singer solo. David Usher. Yeah, he went solo, and he had a pretty good career by himself too.
Yeah.
But wasn't into them as much as I was the first few years. Those first couple albums by the band Moist, which is a bit of a weird name.
You know, being selfish, I think I mentioned this before in an older show, but the one thing I love about doing this show is I get to listen to new music I never heard before. So you guys turned into Big Wreck. I turned friends on to Big Wreck last week. Our people, two friends of ours that we curl with, and they listened that week and they're like, "This band is awesome." So,
yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
That is awesome, right? That's how
I love stuff like this that I've never heard of before that I will definitely check out.
Yeah.
Well, this show is kind of like us being teenagers again. Hey, have you heard this? Have you checked this out?
Yeah.
Listen to this.
It's kind of like when Dink and I met. That's what we were doing. Hey, have you ever heard this before? Yeah. Or when we get together, or we used to have to wait till we get together on weekends to like share music with each other because we couldn't do this at the time, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah. Joe and I did
download
the same.
lately. Like...
Yeah, we did the same thing. Yeah. The only difference is I drove them crazy with my stuff.
Right.
No, that's not true. Just
more extreme bootlegs.
He's got them.
Want to hear Extreme from 1987 when Nuno was 16?
No, I don't. I want to go home. You live here.
That's right. Get out.
Get out.
Oh, shit.
All right. So my next one, my third is Sure Shot by the Beastie Boys.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Wow. Nice.
So again, big on the album. Ill Communication. I listen to it still. There's a lot of really cool, like instrumental fucking guitar, drum, hip hoppy, trip hoppy, 70s style, cool songs. But I don't know. Sure Shot jumps out as one of the songs I listen to all the time. It's on my playlist. Listen to it once a week. So I had to put it on the list. It's like if I'm still listening to it now, then obviously, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know. Just the album in general. Beastie Boys were really big for me. And that CD got worn out.
Yeah, were you guys
one of the
you American guys Beastie Boys fans?
Yeah. I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excuse me. They were huge here. What I was gonna say is one of the cool things that I really respected about the Beastie Boys is the predominance of their albums. They played all of the instruments. It wasn't other musicians coming in.
Right.
I mean, they started out as a punk band, and you know, they knew how to play instruments. And that album in specific, Ill Communication, they did everything.
Right. Yeah. I can listen to the whole album too. I can just put it on and I like the drive to. We're talking about driving tunes. It's one of those albums that I know some people that I wouldn't be able to play it for because they wouldn't be into the instrumental and they're like, what the fuck is this shit? And whatever. But it's like one of those ones that I could just drive to, especially at night, going home by yourself. That's going to come up again on another song.
What You Want on it?
What's that?
Is that album? Is that What You Want, or is that Check Your Head?
No, I think that's Check Your Head.
Check Your Head, yeah.
Okay.
But that's another great album.
Yeah, like Paul's Boutique. Like they've got some albums. If you like the Beastie Boys, that you can put it on, and you don't have to skip a song. Yeah, there might be one you don't like as much, but you can play it through, right?
This one's got Sabotage and Root Down and Flute Loop.
Okay.
You put your root down. Yeah, so good.
And they do a song with Biz Markie on it too, which is big because at the beginning when they came out, Biz Markie was really anti-Beastie Boys, right? Like he gave that famous interview where he's like, they're making a mockery of rap, right? Like, right. So
before you know it, Lars and Fred Durst are performing together.
I picked that song specifically. If you ask me again in a year, I might be listening to it. I might be Sabotage or Root Down. I might be listening to more often, and it might be that one. But that album in general was really big for me, or CD.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then, if I want to move on, Dink, we do have the same female. I have Portishead at number 2, but I have the song Roads is mine.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, I got to write down Portishead.
Yeah, it was one of those rare. Right before we started recording, we didn't share the song, but we said we were talking about females. I got a female. I'm like, I got a female. I'm like, do you got the Cranberries? What do you got? I wanted to know, right? I was like, I hope you don't have the same song as me. Fuck.
I love Beth's voice. She can be like Tori Amos like, and then she can be jazzy and raspy, like bluesy, and
so good.
That again, another album I could put on and I could personally listen to probably start to finish. I could drive to it, especially at night. And it's one of the, again, another one that I knew a lot of people that wouldn't dig it, that they wouldn't listen to it. You wouldn't, you know what I mean? You had to be specific of who you shared that music with.
Yeah.
A lot of times I would put it on when I would like be the DD and drop people off, and then just be me in the car, and I'd take the extra long ride home so I could hear a couple of songs or listen to Rhodes a couple of times on repeat, you know, take the extra long, like drop everybody off.
The grocery store.
Yeah.
I dropped everybody off at midnight, and I got home at 2:00 in the morning because I was listening to fucking.
Right. Where were you?
Right, driving around, listening to music by myself.
On the
Who
road.
does that? I do that. I do that still. Right.
I do it. I still do it at full volume. Yes.
And honestly, that album's great, and I love that one. But they have a live album, live at Roseland, 1998. Again, like maybe it's the roughness of it, like it's a little bit more harder, and they do it with a string, like an orchestra. It's so good, and that version of that song is so good on that live album.
I love when a band will get a full orchestra going. I guess that's my older, kind of mindset now, but I love that whole concept.
Right? I actually love hearing other types of musicians do different types of music, like and orchestras when classical musicians do rock or something. Like I had a CD growing up that I would fall asleep to, that was the London Symphony Orchestra does Pink Floyd.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I would fall asleep to that all the time. Like I love that CD. Right. It's great.
Like Metallica did S&M 1 and 2 and full orchestra, and I actually loved it. I just I introduced it to my kids, and now they listen to it.
I've only done S&M once, but that's fine.
Man, if they're into it.
Womp, womp, womp.
Anyways,
Rob Halford's leather on.
Well, I love that interview with Halford when they're like talking about him being gay. He's like, "I'm a flaming fairy." Yeah,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
right. Remember that?
How did they not know?
All right. My number one is 9 Inch Nails' "Hurt."
Wow.
Again, Downward Spiral is a big album for me. I played that CD over and over and over again, and then seeing him, whatever you want to call it, because 9 Inch Nails is basically Trent Reznor, Mr. Reznor.
Right. What is?
Right, like seeing them live. I saw him with David Bowie. He opened for Bowie one time.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Again, I might have been under the influence of acid or something, but whatever. I went with Dennis Crosland and a couple other people, and they were just so good live. Like he's just unreal. Like better than the album, harder than the album, but like just put on such a good show. Anyways, I fall in love with a lot of these songs when I see the artists live, and they blow me away. Right?
Yeah. No.
On the other point, there's a couple of bands that if we bring up, I could talk about that I fell out of love with because I saw them live and they were horrible. But I don't want to be negative, but this song, especially the video, love the video. I don't know if you guys remember the video. It was him on stage with the projection, and just I hadn't seen anything like it before. The album I could listen to almost the whole thing. There's some cool instrumental, right?
Well, Closer's on it too. Like Hurt and Closer were both on my long list. In fact, did we have this discussion on when we recorded, or during a trivia, or in our group chat? You Americans prefer the Johnny Cash, because I love the 9 Inch Nails.
Absolutely. I was just waiting for
the cover's good, and don't get me wrong, I love
Johnny Cash is fine, but I don't have it on a playlist.
Yeah, nothing.
I have 9 Inch Nails on all kinds of playlists. I don't have the Johnny Cash one at all.
this may come up if we ever do best covers. Let's put it that way.
Right, so that's how much you guys like it, right? So I'm more of an original with that song, Chris.
It's a decent cover, and I grew up with healthy respect to Johnny Cash because my dad's a huge Johnny Cash guy, and it is probably, if we did ever do a country, Johnny Cash would be definitely in there for me. I think one of the only albums I had, but I really, that cover's fine, but I'm like, it didn't blow me away.
Wow.
Yeah,
Like
the one thing I appreciate, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but the one thing I appreciate is they're two completely different versions. You know, one thing I hate about, you take Disturbed's, like all their covers, they all kind of have the same, they're heavier, but you get the same arrangement and the same feel of the first song.
His voice is good. Yeah.
There's no risk taken, right? That was a complete risk taken. You know,
I think I like the Nine Inch Nails one too much because I prefer Johnny Cash's Personal Jesus or some other stuff he did.
Yep.
Well, when I was looked at this, Reznor, I think Trent Reznor said in one of the interviews that like the first time he saw the video and heard Johnny Cash, he like, well, that's his song and that's his interpretation. So like, you know what I mean? Like, so I guess it just depends on which one you prefer. And I still prefer the original, which I got to be honest, there are some covers I like, but most times I prefer the original.
Sure. Right? Yeah, me too. Yep.
It all depends. It depends.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Johnny Cash is hurt. To me, we talked about in Alice in Chains. Go back and listen, please. Watch and listen, like and subscribe. We talked about Alice in Chains. To me, Nutshell being the saddest song ever. Johnny Cash is hurt would be number 2.
It's brutal, yeah. Especially since he again passed away soon after that. So.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Well, there's part of that too. But you also, if you watch the video, you know, he's talking about his trials and tribulations as well. His drug use, his loss of career, getting it back, losing his career. I mean, all of that. The video plays a heavy part of it. So, I have a heavy heart to that song, but the Cash version.
That was your number 1, Chris?
Yeah.
That was good.
And my honorable mention is Blind by Korn. Because I absolutely love Korn. I love them live. I just didn't get into them. Like, that wasn't the album that it was followed later for me when I discovered Korn.
Yeah.
Dink and I have seen them in concert together a few times, I think. If I don't remember them all, but they were all amazing. I went home with a big smile on my face and not be able to hear for a couple of days.
Yeah.
They're amazing live.
But in '94, when that album came out, I didn't know who they were.
No.
I
went back, like, obviously we discovered it later, but I had to put them on as an honorable mention because I still listen to that song all the time. And Chutes and Ladders.
Yeah, I know. I almost had them because of the same thing. They're still relevant in my life now. I'm like, shit, they really should be.
Yeah. So
nice.
I have a personal story about Korn. I'll tell you to not have a long episode here. I'll tell you guys a really cool Korn story regarding that album, later.
Ooh.
All right.
A
little tease here. All right. And that is my list and honorable mention. And Master Joe with the master plan is gonna master.
Thinking of a master.
I'm gonna debate. So far I'm very impressed, man, because all of our picks have been
left you 10 minutes, Joe.
I have 5 minutes to mine done. Wildly different, completely different genres, all over the place. I love it. Mine's gonna be a little more narrowed down. Okay. Let's get this going because it's running kind of long. But my number 4 is Stone Temple Pilots, The Big Empty. It's off.
I knew that was coming.
I might be their best album. It's either that or Tiny Music for me. It depends. I don't know. What? Purple, yeah.
Purple.
But it's also the one song that sounds like it could have come from Core, their first album.
Right.
I mean, it very much could have been on Core, which makes sense because it was written right after the album. In fact, it was included on the Crow soundtrack.
The Crow soundtrack
on Purple. So, but again, it's another very singable song. The one thing Scott Weiland was very good at is very memorable melodies that are fun to sing along with in your car or whatever. It seems, or even a group of people can sing. It's great, man.
Yeah.
The fun note though, they actually performed the song live first on MTV's Unplugged before it was ever released on the soundtrack or on the album. So
That's awesome.
I didn't
yeah,
realize that. Even having watched it, I didn't know it wasn't out yet.
yeah.
I've never.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
But again, Robert DeLeo, who does a bulk of the writing of the band, he's amazing. Again, another underrated guitarist. Guy's so fucking talented, man.
Yeah.
I follow him on Instagram. He's really good. I like him a lot.
Yeah, and he's got a vast knowledge of different kinds of styles. He doesn't just play alternative rock or rock. He can play jazz. He can play blues. He can play rockabilly. And he's another one of those guys like we're talking about. I'll listen to talk for a long time about music because he has such a breadth of knowledge, and he's just got all these great anecdotes, and he's got this great history. He's got all this great knowledge. But yeah, he's highly underrated as a guitarist, especially as a writer. I think STP is an underrated band. I think they get overshadowed by the other 3-4 bands.
I used to get when I was an STP fan. They're like, "How do you like them?" They're just like copying Pearl Jam. They're just copying these other ones. But like they all grew up at the same time, listening to the same influences.
Yeah, and I was one of those guys. I was an Alice in Chains and STP guy. I liked obviously Soundgarden. I liked Nirvana, but I was really an STP and Alice in Chains guy. My number 3 starts narrowing. Oh, you got something to say, Jimmy?
I was just gonna say, wasn't he classically trained? Wasn't that his background? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Robert DeLeo. Yeah. The guy can play anything. He's great. If you ever get a chance to see him interview, especially if he's got a guitar in his hand, watch it. It's a lot of fun. My number 3 starts narrowing down things a little bit, and you might know something about me if you've listened to the show. He hasn't come up yet on a list until we've had a year where he may release not 1 but 2 albums that year. My number 3 is a song called Dark by Prince from his 15th album, Come. If you want to take that in reference, that's his 15th album. He would release another 25 albums after this album. So this is still early in his career. This album's kind of known with Prince fans to kind of be a little bit disjointed. It's kind of thematic. It is kind of a concept album. It's got some thematic elements about it, but the album really starts becoming the rift that was between Prince and Warner Brothers, which has been so oft talking about. But the album cover famously has his name Prince and then his birth date and his death date of 1990, saying he was dying that year. Well, he was just foreshadowing the next year he would remove his name and go by an unpronounceable symbol. But Dark is a very cool jazzy, to take the words from the title of the song, dark song. It's just very creamy. It's full of flavor, baby. It's got this great melody to it. If you haven't listened to it, I mean, seriously, it's not really a ballad. It's just kind of this really calm, jazzy, full flowing song. It's just amazing. I love it. It's kind of unlike a lot of songs he's ever done. So it's a little bit out of his range. So that's another reason I think I like it. So that's number 3.
Well, with Prince, with Prince, we talk about this. I joke about our chat being a stream of consciousness.
And disjointed.
Absolutely. Prince has this crazy stream of consciousness in the moment, the feel, the movement. And that's amazing. It's cool that he can take an idea, a thought, a flex, if you will, and turning it into a fucking album. And it's amazing. As a musician,
no good.
No, I was going to say, as a musician, he is so fucking underrated. He can literally play. It's like 22 instruments or something like that. He could play he could go in, record a full symphony, if you will, whatever, and have this beautiful piece of clay afterwards. So I mean, I hold him in high regard. I joke all the time about it.
There's another person I think it's great, especially a musician or even just a fan of music. Another person that's great to listen to her talk is Susan Rogers, was Prince's engineer. from 1993 through 1989. So, or 1983, 1989. And
So she's a time traveler.
So, and she came on as a tech, and she's like, "Who's the engineer?" And one day he goes, "You're the engineer." And she just was a tech who set up mics, and she's like, "Nope." And she's like, "I didn't know how to do this stuff, and I just kind of learned on the fly." But she has such a breadth of knowledge because in that time, he literally recorded hundreds of songs.
Right, good songs.
Like just to hear her talk about his process, because most times it was just her and him in the studio. That was it. No one else. Occasionally, somebody might come in.
Could you imagine?
Right? She's amazing to listen to. She's got a bunch of. She became a professor and a lecturer as well on music. She's a great listen as well.
Imagine having, I have a comprehension of my job, and I'm going to go work for Prince, and walk out of there a fucking brilliant engineer producer.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people get that opportunity in life? So right fucking on.
Well, especially, let's face it, you're talking about the mid to late 80s, also a woman, which was not a thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
And she even talks about it wasn't lost on her the fact that he surrounded himself with strong women, and she was there for so long, and she chose him, and she left him. He never fired her. He was one of the few people he didn't fire. She left him. So. But not too long, because this will probably run into a theme here. Number 2 is by his second album that year, notoriously called the Black Album.
Okay.
It was finally released in 1994. It was supposed to be released in 1988, but he famously recalled that album after 500,000 copies had been printed in 2 weeks before it was supposed to be distributed. Warner Brothers destroyed all 500,000 copies. The reason why he destroyed it, well, let's get into the reason why he recorded. He recorded the Black Album because he thought he'd lost his black audience. So he wanted to record a really funky, really dark album to say how it was going. Well, the weird thing is one of his songs on there was called Dead On It, which is kind of a diss to rap. It wasn't it was a complete diss to rap. He didn't like rap. He didn't understand it. He would later embrace it, obviously, but it was supposed to be his encompassing to try and bring his black audience back in. Long story short, he apparently had some epiphany of a bad dream that if he died, this would have been his last album. And it was a really dark album, thematically wise. So he decided, in case he died, he didn't want this album to be the last thing released. So he had Warner Brothers destroy 500,000 copies. There are 27 known copies and known to exist. There's rumored to be 125 copies because of promo copies that did get distributed directly to, radio stations and PR people, but it's famously probably the most bootlegged album of all time. Actual copies of the album have gone up for auction, have gone for $50,000+ for the vinyl copy. Wow. In fact, when it was released in 1984, he only included it because he was trying to get out of his contract, and they said, "We'll let you out of his contract if you do 4 more albums, and one of them is the Black Album." He said, "Fine." He didn't touch it, so it hadn't been updated since the original mix. It sounds very of the day. It was literally just given to Warner Bros. As it was. It's not a very greatly mixed album. So it's also, too, when they released it in 1994, it only came out in cassettes and CDs, so there's still no vinyl versions. So if you have a vinyl copy that's real, odds are it's a bootleg. But if you do have one, you're one of 125 or 27 to actually know it exists. Anyhow, that's awesome. On the album, it's the last song on the album. It's called "Rock Hard in a Funky Place." That song is just kind of it's Prince at his best, man. It's raw, it's funky, it's sexy, it's not overproduced. It's this guitar, bass, keyboards, drums, and him. There's no horns or anything else. It's just That's it, and that's when he's best at. That's number 2. So you're gonna probably guess what's number 1. Yeah, well,
real quick. One of Prince's awesome natures is he could go in with just an acoustic guitar, and he could go on with a 12-piece orchestra, 40-piece orchestra, and come out with just a beautiful work of art. So, I mean, I always kid about fuck Prince, but the guy's a fucking genius. So, yeah.
Well, and that album particularly is kind of like it's such a renowned album because, like I said, it was so highly bootlegged. It was recalled to the very last second. I guess it's very dark. If you listen to the whole entire album, there's a song in there called Bob George, and his voice is really lowered down the whole entire time. And the guy's kind of a hitman, and he talks about Prince and just as Prince. A lot of the songs on the album are recorded in his character called Camille, which is his voice kind of sped up and kind of higher pitched. And Camille was kind of a feminine character that Prince would sing as. His first time he did that was really Erotic City, but he had done other songs like Housequake and a bunch of other songs. He was supposed to have an album called Camille. But famously, the Black Album was supposed to just ship with no titles, no nothing. It was just a catalog number, and that was it. There's no Prince on there. There's no title number. The actual official name was supposed to be the Funk Bible, but there was no writing on there. The only writing on the album itself was just a track listing, and again, just Warner Brothers in the catalog number. That was it. No Prince, nothing. Staying with that same theme. Yeah. Staying with that same
Lars
theme.
Ulrich?
No.
Lars Ulrich play on that album?
No, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank God. My number
Same
one
theme.
is my other Prince album again. It's from Come. It's a song called Let It Go by Prince. It's the very last song on that album. Second to last song. And but the last song on the album is called Orgasm, and it's really kind of a bunch of people orgasming kind of with some music. So it's really the last real song.
It's pre-Jehovah's Witness.
Right.
Yeah, very much so. But the song again, it's raw. It's guitar, bass, drums, and his voice. He's got a thing of saying "Let It Go." It's kind of talking about his relationship with Warner Brothers, how he wants to let it go. It's not them. It's all metaphorical, of course, but he talks about himself a little bit, again, metaphorically. If you haven't heard the song, it's one of my favorite all-time Prince songs. It's called Let It Go, all one word, Let It Go. It's, again, him at his best when it's this, he's got something to say, he's pissed off, and it's fucking funky. That's it.
Rabbit hole.
Totally.
My honorable mention is going to be a little bit outside of the box from the other ones. It's actually Zombie by the Cranberries.
I wondered if anyone was going to get it in. Yeah.
I love the Cranberries. I love Dolores's voice. Again, not a perfect voice. Jimmy brought it before. It's one of my things I like. But again, it's an aggressive song. They got something to say. It's just, it hits that itch. You know, there's nothing better than a band that's kind of pissed off and they got shit to say and they're just going to scream at you. I love it. So Zombie by
I'm with you. That song is great. That album, actually, no need to argue, is really good.
It's a great album, man. I love it.
Bad Wolves did a cover of that, and
Bad Wolves cover isn't bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually. Right? You're very much so. It's very right.
Yeah,
My
it
girlfriend
was nice to kind of resurrect it because
never-
people, like my kids and stuff, had never really heard Zombie, right? So
Yeah.
Right.
Do you remember Stacy used to sing that, Dink?
yes,
Did you ever hear that? My ex used to sing that in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
It's pretty
what was really cool about her, Dolores, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Riordan.
Yep. We're right on it.
She took that whole Irish Celtic historical sound and
Yeah.
she turned it into a mainstream pop voice. And
Yeah.
she was very, very groundbreaking. And again, back to the 94, the women empowerment movement.
right.
And she brought this beautiful voice, this awesome power to a generation that, you know, may not have had that previous because it was male dominated. So it's fucking incredible.
Yeah. Again,
So
another
like 93, 94, 95 really was a breakout period
Yeah.
of time for women, right?
Absolutely.
so much good music. So much good music.
I wrote down "Let It Go" Prince because I knew I would be like, "Why am I looking up Def Leppard song again?"
I wrote Dark and Let It Go.
Yeah. Let it go. It's all one word. Let it go. No spaces. Well, I think that's it for this week, guys. I want to thank everybody for listening or watching. If you're watching the YouTube version, remember there's a difference now. If you watch the YouTube version, you get to see the artwork and stuff like that and the visuals. But if you listen to the podcast, you actually get to hear the songs because, you know, on YouTube, we can't do that. So if you listen to the podcast version, it's a little bit different because you actually get to hear the songs we're talking about. Again, if you want to find us, it's on JustRankPod.com. That's the link out to all of our socials, the links to the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, click like, subscribe, and click the little bell so you get the little notifications. And my name's Joe, and for Jimmy and Dink and Chris, in the immortal words of Donald Fagen, go fuck
94
yourself.
hugs.
Yeah.